Welcome to Solutions with Courtney Anderson. I'm Courtney Anderson and I'm so happy you're here. I do want to encourage you to stop by courtneyanderson.com and join in the conversation. Um, I love hearing from community members, and of course, so many of the show ideas come from you. So let me know what's on your mind. Here we are in our show today, and we are in our Myth Warriors series. And of course, I love this because I love the idea of us being warriors because we are, you know, in a healthy, fun, cool way. We are both offensive, we're out there assertively. Finding out what we need to do and getting things done and working to, as always, surpassing our goals. And we're also on defense because we understand that not everything's going to go our way, and not everybody has, good intentions. So we're prepared. So we've got our offensive and defensive weaponry and our protective gear. And what are we doing? Trying to figure out what's going on in life so we can make those choices, so we can get the best outcome, so we can surpass our goals. As always. What's a myth? What's a lie? What's a falsehood? So many people get caught up in things that are not accurate, then they use the thing that's inaccurate and make bad choices. What do I mean by that? So let's say that I had a belief and I said, it never rains in Southern California or Southern Nevada. These are states in the U.S., obviously. And I thought that's true, right? Never rains, so I'm never going to have an umbrella. I'm never going to carry anything with me just in case it rains. And even if I hear on the news that it's going to rain, I think that's not true because it never rains. So I go out, and sure enough, because the weather professionals who study these things had shown that the weather system was moving in and it did rain, and now I'm standing there wet in the rain because I believed a myth and a lie that it never rains here. Okay, so that's a simple example. But people do all kinds of things that are odd in terms of their outcomes, but they have bad information, so bad data, garbage in, garbage out, so if I believe 1 and 1 is 17, and that's just how I do my math, I'm going to get really bad numbers, and really inaccurate information when I'm, balancing my checkbook or whatever, because 1 and 1 is not 17, and that's not what we've agreed on. We've agreed that 1 and 1 is 2. So the specific show today that we are going to try to figure out, is this a myth? Is it a lie? Or is it actually, pretty accurate? Something I could use to make good choices. We are examining the idea of, in this episode, taking college courses online is easy. Taking college courses online is easy. Taking college courses online is easy. That's what we're looking at. So let's see. Is it a myth? Is it a lie that taking college courses online is easy? Or is it true? Is it true that taking college courses online is easy? So let's look and see. And I have shared in other programs. I have been teaching, full disclosure, different levels of college courses since the 1990s, like the mid 1990s. So I have a lot of experience, relatively speaking, for my age and expertise in teaching college classes. Obviously, when I was teaching in the 1990s, we did not have internet technology that we have today, pervasive in society. So these were traditional classrooms, right? I walk into a classroom and I'm teaching my students. In modern times, and today, the time I'm recording the show, I exclusively teach my college courses online. And then because I have students all over the world and I crave that type of open diversity of experience with students and the technology. I want to know and learn as much as I can and be on the sort of the cutting edge of that. So I'm very, 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 very fortunate that I do teach for the largest public state government university in the United States, and it is a university that has been on the front leading edge of teaching non-traditional adult university students for 60 years, and we're all over the world, and we have an amazingly successful and robust online campus. And so I teach for the University of Maryland, which is part of the state of Maryland's public school system, but I teach for their campus, which is University College. So University of Maryland, University College. And it's interesting, my mother and actually one of my aunts taught at their colleges in Germany, in Europe, when my family lived there, and when my on her family lived there. And so this university, like I said, has had classes for university students, typically who were in the United States military. So they were all over the world. That's why they were in Europe, and many different nations, for over 60 years. So now we teach online. So that's all to say that I love teaching, and I've got some experience, and I like to be as clear and repetitive sometimes so that people can, oh, okay, well, that's why she would say that. And I have taught online for many years. And so, like I said, I teach in the graduate program for that University of Maryland University College, but I've taught at other institutions intermittently for many years. But my appointment as a full faculty member is to the like I said, fantastic institution. So that's to say that when we talk about online and we talk about classes and we talk about college, I have a lot of experience. And even more than that, I went back to school. I'm not sure at this point if I've ever actually really left school. As we know, we talk about the cliche, knowledge is power. But it really is. And there's a great quote from Nelson Mandela, who of course is a global figure, who passed away now, and he was talking and referring to education is the most powerful weapon, right? So it's power, but it's also even potentially a weapon. And I understand the context. I believe my interpretation of what Mr. Mandela was referring to is, if we don't know things, we can't do things. If I have bad information, like we talked about, I think, oh, it's not going to rain, and yeah, it's raining up a storm. I'm having a bad outcome for me. I need to know what's going on so I can figure out how to, navigate the world and get what I would like done to meet and surpass my goals. So I need knowledge. And I went back to school, as I said, or I continued on with school and got another degree very recently, and was enrolled as a student online because I just don't have the ability in my schedule and logistics to attend a physical campus classroom. And so I just did this. I was a student in a graduate program, and so I know I was just a student online. So I have the experience of sort of 360 degree, right, from the educator's perspective and from the student's perspective. And I've done this in many different settings. And I've just recently, not even a year ago at the time of recording, did I receive another, did I graduate with my most recent degree from my online, and that was from one of the state schools in Texas. So again, another public school system out of the state of Texas. So here we are, and the question is it a myth, is it a lie that taking college courses online is easy, or is it true that taking college courses online is easy? Let's walk through it. One, there's been an explosion of universities around the world, and certainly in the U.S., that offer online courses. And I wouldn't say that that's separate from anything else. It's an explosion of online services. Like I said, I'm old enough to have, grown up and finished primary and secondary school and college and law school before the internet even, was something average people had heard of or knew existed. It wasn't until I was in my MBA program, which is after I had finished law school and was an attorney and already opened my law firm, that I was going back to my continuing education to get my MBA. I remember the first time I saw the internet. I was taking a class for my MBA, and we were in computer lab because people didn't used to have these little tiny laptops you can carry around everywhere that were sort of ubiquitous. And of course, nothing existed that exists now. Smartphones and tablets and glasses with computers and watches. All this stuff, that it's just overwhelming how quickly things have changed. But I remember the first time I saw the internet. And I've said in other programs, it was an example of me making a really poor decision, because I remember sitting in the computer lab, which again, so you have to remember, before sort of the modern technology that at the time of taping, and goodness only knows what will happen in the next few years, but at this time, computers weren't something most people had. Schools had them. And so usually when you needed to use a computer, you would go to the school and the library, or they'd have a room like a computer laboratory where you could go in there and sit at a large personal computer. So they weren't laptops or any of the things. And very wealthy people, I know when I was in school, in undergrad and law school, sort of wealthy people would have their own personal computers at their homes or apartments. Um, and I had a few friends I knew that had some means when I was in school that I'd say, hey, can I come over? I need to, work on a paper for a few hours. I, want to go to the library or computer lab. But it wasn't an average normal thing, right? So I was in a computer lab and I was in my MBA classes. And so I'm already a lawyer and I'm working doing that all day. And I'm driving at night to this town. About an hour away to go to night school because they had a program for working adults. So I'm trying to get my MBA and I, obviously I'm running my law firm. So I'm in the lab where it's literally what it sounds like. It's like a room full of little computers and you would go and you'd sign in as a student with your student ID and you'd sit at a computer. If it was really busy, you can only use it for a certain amount of time. And if it wasn't, you could use it until you finish your work. Okay, so I was at the computer doing my task, one of my class assignments. And this assignment was to go to this thing, the World Wide Web, and go to a website. And I remember so we went, the assignment was to go to like a White House, whitehouse.gov website. So I did this, and I was thinking, because I'd heard about, people were starting to talk about the internet thing. And I was sitting there, and this is like 1990s, sort of early, mid 1990s. And I'm thinking, all right, show me this thing. So I go and I log in, so there, there's nothing like a Google or any of the things that people use now. There were search companies that don't even exist anymore, which is interesting. So I went to the whitehouse.gov and I looked at it and I thought, well, this is nothing. I mean, I'm sitting on the computer, and of course I've been using computers forever, right? Since I was like in elementary school for like typing things. So I knew what a computer was. But I didn't get it. Like I was like, okay, I see this thing, whitehouse.gov, I see it. What's the big deal? And it was like just some words on the screen, and it was like, this is whatever. I don't remember what it said, but it was something like, this is the, White House official website or something. And that was it. Because remember, the technology's not changed. It wasn't like it is now, where there's like on the internet, there's video and, there's multimedia and there's all this like cool stuff. I mean, it was just words. And I didn't think it was worth anything. I was like, what's the big deal about this? I didn't understand. And I remember at the time saying to some friends and maybe some people in class, like, this is nothing. I mean, I get it, whatever. We type this on the computer. We'd look at this thing, what's the big, to do about it? I was obviously wrong. So what I was saying is that, yes, you've had an explosion in online university courses and degree programs, but you've had an explosion in online everything. Back then, I never would have thought you would go to this internet thing and it would be your bank. It's weird, right? Like, but so much now that is normal, it just didn't exist. So there's been an explosion of internet everything. Like, I'm not going to go to the bookstore. I'm going to just go on this internet thing and I can order it and they'll send it to my house. How weird. And I'm glad I lived the way, and I assume for at least the foreseeable future, that generation of people who grew up without this interconnected, always on world and know that how you navigate without it. Although my suspicion and my criticism of the internet was obviously very poorly recedes in reality. Of course, it's everything. It's not everything, but it has changed so much of our lives. And so jobs that didn't exist, of course, you didn't have online classes, you didn't have online. Of course, when everything moves online and people see the benefits and how the ease and the advantages it gives their business and the advantages it gives their customers and their clients and students, you see this proliferation across everything. So I'm saying I don't think education necessarily is separate from any other part of society. Everything is trying to catch up and take advantage of this. And now people who grow up with more expectation of internet access, they expect it. Like now it's weird if you're like, why is my dry cleaner not on the internet? And I've shared, that personally, I'm not, I'm not on social media as an individual or anything. And people say to me, well, how can you not be on these things? And I think, well, why would I be on that? Right? Like, it's weird. In my mind, if I wanted to see a friend or talk to somebody, I would, they would call me. We'd go see each other. Like, I don't understand why I go look on the computer, but it's a different, it's a different generation. It's a different expectation. And also, I'm very introverted. So all that's to say this. Taking college courses online is now available. It wasn't an available option before. It is. As I said, I just recently graduated with another master's degree from an online public school university system in Texas. and it's a traditional campus. It's the same one actually where I got my MBA, that I was driving, to this physical building. But now, all these years later, they have online. So how great, right? The thing that's amazing is taking college courses online is easy for some people. And this is a little bit of a challenge, because usually in our Myth Warriors series, I like to be as clear as I can. I like bright lines, right? If you've taken any of our programs and been in our other shows, I try to stay away from this argument about, oh, there's shades of gray everywhere, shades of gray. Well, yeah, I mean, it's true, but it makes it difficult for people to make decisions or to be able to think through problems if they feel like everything is debatable. So I try to get people to realize, yeah, there are nuances to things, but you need to decide you're this or that, right? And I like bright lines because it makes life easier, at least conceptually. If not in understanding an application of real life, of course, all kind of things can happen. But I like to give as much of an answer or potential solution as I can. But in this, I'm going to have to break it up a little bit. Taking college courses online is easy for some people. For the majority of people, taking college courses online is not easy. So let's talk about why. Now, I want to define a couple of things. When I talk about taking college courses, I'm a big believer, and I have other programs, and I understand other people don't necessarily agree with this, but I believe that there's no point in taking a course if you don't have a goal. So if you don't have a college degree at all, then my argument would be you want to get skills and credentials you can use. So starting a class is, in my mind, not really helpful. You need to finish it. So if you're going to take the class, you need to complete the class. And if you're going to complete the class and you don't have an excess of academic and professional credentials, you need to go ahead and complete the certification or complete the degree program. You need to finish it. You don't need to just take it, just start it, because that's not going to do anything. You're not going to be able to use that on a resume, or you need to be able to complete it. And so completing successfully college courses online is easy for some people. Well, this is going to seem pretty logical. People who already have completed a lot of other college courses. So if you're somebody who has a couple of college degrees or a college degree, then you already know what it's like to complete a college degree. So for you, it's going to be easier for you to complete a college degree in the future, whether it's online, traditional classroom, because you already have done this. If you've done something, then it's, of course, easier to do it again. You know what to expect. You know how college works. You're used to the norms and expectations. So obviously that gives you a huge advantage. If you are someone who has never been to college and you don't have any idea of what to expect, then it is much harder. Because so much of the technology with opening up internet access to schools is new, obviously the data and the research is just in infancy because it's also new. When you're working with people who have a lot of formal education, academic experience, then yeah, it's much easier for them to continue on. Even though, like I said, I went to the same public university in Texas for my MBA, which was traditional school. I drove at night to go to campus, sat in the computer lab. I told that story, right? Just a few minutes ago. I went to the same school to go back and get this most recent master's degree. And now, of course, it's online. But I'd already been there. I mean, I'd gone and done this other degree at that exact school. I knew the institution. So going online just permitted me to do it while my schedule doesn't allow me to drive, to a local campus. So, of course, I've already gotten this expertise, and so it's going to be much easier for me to take college courses. I've taken a lot of college courses. I've taken college courses at that exact campus before. I have other degrees from there, so I know what to do. If you have someone who's in that situation where you have a lot of experience taking college courses, you have other college degrees and certificates and credentials, then yes, it's much easier for you because you're already used to the self-discipline, motivation, follow through, and you've had a taste of success because you already have other certificates and degrees. So you know what it's like to succeed. So you're going to be much more primed and able to guide yourself to more success because you already are successful, right? You also are going to recognize when you're overwhelmed, when you need to maybe drop a class or change your schedule or withdraw and come back another semester. You're able to figure that out because you've been through this. So you know what it's like to succeed. You also know what it's like to have not succeeded in a class where you did have to withdraw or you did have to reschedule or you did have to come back another semester. You know what this is like because you've been through it because you've already succeeded. So if you have other college degrees and or credentials and you have experience, then yes, it's much easier for you to continue taking college courses, whether it's traditional classroom or it's online, because you already know how to do this. And you know how to moderate yourself if you get to a situation where you have too much or not enough. You know how to have the confidence and assertiveness to reach out to the faculty members or to the school administration with questions or concerns. The biggest challenge for many people, and I'm speaking here to a very specifically sort of US based experience. In the US, many of the public school systems, from my understanding, not my own experience, most of the public schools I went to as a child that were in the US were on or near large military installations. So some of them that were on these military installations were actually run by the DoD, Department of Defense. So they're public schools, but because they're on this sort of restricted military installation, it's not the same as a public school system that's run by the local county or school district that's open to everybody in the whole town. These are only open to people who live on these restricted installations, so it's a slightly different system in terms of your outcomes. Because people who live on military installations, by definition, everybody that's in those schools, they're all employed. You don't have unemployment or homelessness or any of that because you're on post, you're on base. Like, everybody has a job because you're living in government housing. Everybody does. So it's a very different type of culture. When you look at people who come from public schools, that sort of a generic open community school in the U.S., many of them are based on a lot of structure. So, the student is really taught very well to obey and understand structure and get used to routine. And at very young ages, you have to do this. Very young children, we have to have nap time, and I've substitute taught, and this is a long time ago now, but it was still kind of interesting and fun for me because I don't know a lot about early childhood development. It's not an area at all that I'm in any type of experience or expertise, but it was interesting because young children need a lot of structure. So really little kids, it's time for nap. Okay, we have nap time every day at the same time because they need that structure. They have to learn, and they're very, very young. I mean, little kids. But as kids transition, ideally they should be doing more and more critical thinking, right? More creativity, more and more originality, and more where they're sort of determining the parameters of an assignment, of an experience. In some instances that happens, in some it doesn't. So if you have somebody who's coming from an environment where they're told everything, this is what time you need to be here, this is what you need to wear, this is where you need to sit, this is what you need to turn in. And then if they don't do what they're supposed to, they have constant immediate feedback. You didn't do this, you didn't wear this, you have, I'm standing right here, you need to finish this, you need to turn this in, where is this work? And there's all of this monitoring, right? So it's a very controlled environment. When you put somebody like that into a higher education program, which historically, the reason why, for me, my own anecdote briefly, I loved going to college because it was all the things that I love about learning, and it got rid of all the things I didn't like about sort of restrictive programs. I like being able to be creative and come up with my own ideas and research. And I was in a lot of programs that were sort of enrichment or special programs these schools offered that did allow me to do that. But I also, did have enough of my experience of sort of the larger framework of just do what we say. And I didn't really like that because I always am going to question, like, why are we doing this? Could we do it better? I have an idea. That didn't go over well in some of the more traditional settings. In college, all that's gone. There's nobody that's going to come and tell you, oh, it's time to go to class. There's nobody that's going to ring a bell and, come around and, get up. You got to go to your class, or why are you sitting there? There's nobody that's going to tell you when to do your work, right? Like, you're an adult. So I loved it, right? I was like, bring me, this is my happy place because I get to study and do it the way I want, how I want. I learned some other lessons I've shared in other episodes about managing my time and maybe taking too many classes at once. But I love just the freedom of it. The challenge, though, is there are people who I think love the freedom also, but don't have the skills to adapt quick enough. Because I did not always thrive in that really structured system. I in fact, had challenges where I was a discipline problem for, not just obeying, I guess, well enough. And so that was not really my area of just, I'm just following without ever, and don't question authority. In college, of course, all that was removed, so I was fine. But the people who actually do really well under structured systems don't necessarily adapt immediately to the system without all that structure, because there's nobody there to tell you to go study and to tell you what to do. And if you traditionally, of course, if you left home and went to live on a college campus, and I actually did that, right out of high school, my freshman year of college, then it's for many people the first time you've ever lived in your own little, world where you're not living with a family or caregiver. And you get to make control. Do I watch television? Do I stay up late? Do I go to sleep? Do I use my alarm? Do I go to a party? Do I study? And for many people, it's exciting and awesome. But for other people, it's horrible because there's so much temptation and there's not anybody there to tell you what to do. And people struggle. And people who academically are fine with the content, they just can't structure their time and monitor their goals and stay on task. And I actually was amazed by this my freshman year of college. I really was. There were people that I had known briefly from the high school that I graduated from, because I wasn't there that long, but whatever. I knew some people, and they were really, quite bright, but they struggled. I mean, my freshman year of college, I was so happy. I did have some problems with taking a lot of classes, which I've talked about in other programs, right? Because I just was trying to graduate really quickly because I love goals, and I loved it, right? I loved it. I loved the freedom. I loved getting to be in charge, and I love structure, my own structure that I made up, right, of my own schedule. But I saw people get on, in academic probation and then actually fail out of college, like quick, because I think it was hard for them to feel like, oh, I don't want to say no to my friends, and I could go to the movies, or I can take a nap, or I can go to a party, and then they didn't study, and then, it all fell apart. And I thought it was strange at the time, even, because I thought, well, why would you? This is your chance. It's your life, right? Like, even to this day, unfortunately, some of these things are kind of personality traits. Look, if I have a goal, I'm going to meet that goal. And if I have to hurt somebody's feelings and I'm not coming to their party, I really don't, it's not going to bother me in the least. If other kids think I'm, not cool and, I'm a nerd and I study too much, I just am so uninterested in that. Like, I had a goal. And so I thought it was really strange, but I watched people do this in real time, in real life. And I look back now and I think, wow. And that same exact problem is why people, for the majority of people, college courses online, not easy. In fact, extremely difficult. The graduation rates are very low, especially for the first-time college student from a non-traditional background. And the reasons are exactly what I just talked about. In real life, when you take the teenager and you sort of, they're late teens. So in the U.S., usually you're somewhere around 18, 19, 20. I was 17, but somewhere in that range, right? You finished high school. Some people 16, it was like 14, but you go somewhere in your teens, you finish, high school, and then you go to college, traditionally. So if you traditionally go to college, you're somewhere in that late teen, early 20s age. And now for many people, it's the first time you've ever been in charge of your own place, right? Like paying your own little expenses. And do I watch television? Do I take a nap? Do I study? Do I go to a party? Whatever. So you're in charge. And, that's where people stumble. That's the same problem online. And online, you have even more freedom, because in a traditional classroom, especially for undergrad students at traditional schools, you will even have people sometimes, rarely, take attendance, like in high school or middle school, where it's a big thing. Attendance is, very important for many reasons. Well, it's teaching students to come, and, the student has to be there to be able to, be part of the program, and also funding is based on that and all this information. So in most universities, traditionally, that's not something that happens, but some programs will do that, or some small classes will take attendance, and you'll get points for it sometimes, right? So, which is similar to high school. In online programs, it's not. That's not happening. Look, the beauty of online is, you can come to campus and get your work done whenever it works for you. And the nightmare of online college courses for people who don't have these skills and aren't acclimated to this is you can come anytime you want to. So there's nobody there to tell you, you got to go to class, you got to get your work done, your work's due tomorrow, your work's due in 10 minutes, your work's late. Like that's not happening. And like I said, over the years, I had some really diverse experiences picking up different adjunct, which is part-time, just contract work and different things. So I did see in instances students who were non-traditional students, meaning they didn't come from a family or a background where people went to college. They weren't really, they didn't know exactly how it worked. Maybe they're the first in their family to go to school, and then they were put into that same situation that the traditional 19-year-old is put in. Hey, you can stay up late, you can sleep in, you can party, you can do whatever you want to, because there's nobody here to tell you what to do, right? You're not under your parents or grandparents or foster parents' roof. This is your life. And many people stumble and have horrible academic outcomes. It's not because, again, like, it's not because it's even related to the class work. They're just not able to manage their time and say no to all the different things they need to, and prioritize things and get things done and do all of that themselves, because they're used to an environment, especially again in the States, where you come from an environment where everybody tells you what to do all the time. You don't have to take any responsibility in a lot of these systems because everything is so monitored. And then you're thrown into a system where it's not monitored and you're supposed to figure it out on your own. For the people who love that and sort of naturally are inclined to that, it's great. I loved it. For the people who aren't used to that and have a hard time with peer pressure, time management, confidence and assertiveness and saying no, you got to say no to something. So something has to give. There's only so many hours in a day. So you're going to have to sleep. You're going to have to use the restroom and hygiene and eat. I'm cutting into your time. And then people add a whole bunch of other stuff, right? They're like, oh, I have to work. Okay, well, that's fine. And then if you have a family or pets or hobbies or other activities or responsibilities, and then you want to add school in. If it works and you can make it work, then great. If you cannot make it work, it will not work. And the difference between traditional programs, and I'm speaking to most of the U.S. because that's my experience as a student. Okay, so in many other nations, it's probably very similar. And sort of having a highly structured, highly regimented, highly regulated program where somebody's always literally standing there telling you what to do, and then being put into a situation where you decide. If you set your alarm and get up and do your work, great. If you don't, all right, no one's here to tell you anything. And when I've taught in those programs with students who have no experience in that type of a situation, I've said to them sometimes, they don't manage their time, they don't read and see what they need to do, they don't have a calendar, they're not on top of their scheduling, and then they want to come, when it's a disaster academically, and say, oh, it's a disaster academically, and here's all the reasons why I haven't turned my work in, and whatever. And it's not in my mind any different than the traditional student on a campus and a dorm room who goes to the professor. And I've had this happen because I've taught undergrad in traditional classrooms at the University of Texas at Austin and other schools. And saying, I was with my fraternity, or I was, hanging out, and I had all these things to do and I didn't get around to it. I get it. I'm not judging you, but I can't do anything about the consequence. The consequence is the consequence. So if you have, grades that are zeros and you need to withdraw, or you're failing, that's your choice. I don't have anything to do with it. I'm not going to come to your dorm room, or for my online students, I'm not going to find out where you live in the world and fly there and come to your door and knock on your door. I'm not going to go, create little, online reminders and have them pop up when you wake up and be your alarm clock. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm an adult and you're an adult. I teach adults. None of that is anything that I do. I talk about the content, the ideas, professional development. I explore intellectual engagement with my students. That's what I do. I'm not your parent. So the people who struggle with online classes, and when you look at some of the schools, especially schools that have targeted and worked with non-traditional communities, or new schools that came up when the technology came into vogue and marketed. Some schools, in fact, even market, oh, it's so easy. You can be in your pajamas and earn a degree. Yeah, you can. If you have all these other skills, time management, organization, syllabus, and you have to have the ability, in fact, to teach yourself a lot of information and to know when to go ask for more help. These are very high level skills in terms of confidence, assertiveness. You have to have to succeed, you really need to have very high level critical thinking, writing, communication skills, a lot of self-discipline, a lot of self-motivation. You have to have all of that because nobody's coming over to tell you what to do. And for the person who has all those things, online classes, and now I teach exclusively graduate students, it's much easier for them because they all, by definition, already have undergrad degrees, so they've already succeeded at that. They're going to be older than, somebody who's 16, 17, 18, 19, right out of high school, on average. Some of them are in their 20s. They're going to, again, have a track record of succeeding. They know what it takes to do it because they've done it. So yes, it's there. It's much easier for them. If you have somebody though who doesn't have that track record, and to me, this analogy is just so applicable. It's just like sending that kid to college on a traditional campus, and they're in the dorm room and they fail academically because they're not getting stuff done. And it's mostly because they don't have the time management, the self-discipline, and the communication skills. It's the same thing online. It's just a little bit more severe because now you're not even on campus. At least on campus, you're in a building, and if you really are disappearing, there's people that worked in the dorms, resident advisors, I believe they called them in my dorm, like older students, not much older, maybe a year or whatever, but they sort of are in charge, and they'll come check, knock on your door. How are you? Whatever. If you are on your own and you're online, that even isn't going to happen because there's nobody that's going to come check on you because it's not set up like that. You're an adult. Now, here's all the classroom. Here's all the information. For me and my classes, of my lectures and multimedia, I'm here, I'm in the class every day posting different information and engaging with my students, and I'm grading, and there's feedback, and we're really, very close. I love teaching. I love teaching, and I love teaching online. But it's not for somebody who doesn't have these skills. And the skills are discipline, organization. You have to read every single thing that's in the class because there's no other way to communicate information. So if you're somebody who's like, I don't read the syllabus, I don't know what's happening, then you're in deep trouble because there's nobody else that's going to come do it for you. You're responsible and you're an adult. And so when people come, and they came, and when I taught traditional classrooms and told me some long story about they were having so much fun with their sorority and that's why they didn't get their work done, or they were working and they had their family and they just had too much on their plate and they couldn't come to get their work done. It's the same thing online. I can't do anything about that. You got to look at your life and try to see what can move. If nothing can move, if between work and family and all the things you have to get done and your health and everything, there's literally no time, then they're not going to be able to take these classes. You can't come to me and say, I don't have the time and I didn't do anything, now fix it. I can't do anything other than watch what you do and evaluate it. So if you in a situation where you don't have the time right now, then withdraw from the class or don't sign up for it. If you sign up for it and you thought you could do it, but then you started and you realize that this isn't going to work, then you need to be as assertive as possible, as early as possible. Let talk to the school, talk to the administrator. Talking to the faculty member is really not helpful because I can't do anything. I can't change what this program is. So if you can do it, great. If you cannot do it, then I understand that you're sharing that with me, but there's nothing I can do. That's a registration situation. You need to talk to your advisor, the registrar, about if you need to come back another time when you have the ability to take the class. And people do all kinds of amazing things. Some people do the classes while their kids are asleep. Some people do the classes while they're on the train commuting. Some people make it work if they want to and they have the ability to do so. They do it. And they're used to making those types of choices, and they have to discipline and regulate themselves. Then people do all kinds of amazing things. I have students all over the world right now in classes I'm teaching. It's awesome. If you don't have those self-regulation, discipline, time management skills, it is a bad idea. College is going to be difficult no matter what if you don't have those skills. That's why I said the analogy. I saw people in real life flunk out on campus. But if you pace yourself, maybe take one class, traditional college campus, where you're gonna maybe you'll do better in an environment with more structure to start with, where there is somebody there taking role, where there is somebody checking on you, where there is that type of interaction and expectation and sort of monitoring. That's an okay thing to do, and it's a healthy, smart thing to do, so you can get started and build yourself to the skill set that you need, so that you can handle, juggle multiple priorities at once and get stuff done at a very elite level. So, hey, taking college courses online is easy. Is that a myth? For most people, it's a myth. For most people, it's a lie. For most people, it is not easy. If you're one of the few small percentage of people who already have academic college credentials, then it is easier because you've already done this. You've already done college. So to me, again, it's that same thing. Is that freshman, year of college for a traditional student? leaving home, living in the dorm? Are you going to go out and spend time with your friends or lay around and watch movies or play frisbee or whatever people do and flunk out? Or are you going to get it together at some level enough to manage your time, manage your work, understand what the responsibilities are, manage your calendar, and get some level of work done that's passing enough to go on and get your degree? That's the same question that you're facing, no matter whether you're, 16 or 67. And the skills that you need to develop to succeed are the same. So if you have those skills and you already know you've been deploying those skills, self-discipline, organization, without monitoring, then yes, look at that online opportunity for another degree or credential or just a refresher or anything, right? Take those. Now a lot of schools are opening these ideas of the massive online open course, which is ideal for somebody who has the ability to manage their time and just is really interested in some extra information or a certain faculty member to learn from. Sure, do it. Why not? If you don't have the self-discipline, the organization, the high-level reading comprehension skills, the ability to be assertive and ask questions and ask for help, to manage multiple priorities, if you don't have those skills, college itself is extremely difficult. It's one of the main reasons I believe there's such a challenge in graduation rates for people who are new to that type of system. And they don't know what to expect, especially if you're first in your family, first in your community, then you really don't understand the difference between what you've been experiencing in a very highly regulated, monitored environment, and then sort of, hey, you're college, you're free. You're not ready for it. People who come from families who maybe their parents also went to college, they know what it's going to be like because somebody sat and talked to them about it and prepared them for it, So it's not that the person can or can't do the work academically. It's these other things that prevent them from being able to manage their time and their schedule and their priorities that end up costing them the opportunity to finish college, to finish the degree, to finish the program. So if you don't have those skills, be honest with yourself. Go develop them. Start slowly, right? But you can't go and try to replicate a very highly monitored sort of primary and secondary education system in university, because it's not going to happen, because it's not what it's set up for. You're in a totally different environment where we're not here to monitor what you wore or how long you sat there or whatever. I'm here to talk to you about the expectations and the goals, and then work with you through your questions, concerns, share my lectures and information, and then evaluate your work. How you do it and when you do it is up to you. Again, for the people who love that and have those skills for management and motivation and self-discipline, it's awesome. For the people who don't have them, you need to learn them. And you can. I mean, it doesn't cost any money to learn them. It just takes a little bit of time. But you need to move away from this idea that anyone else other than yourself is responsible. It's all on you, which is why it's great. But it's also why people struggle with college, period. And definitely when you make it where you don't have even the actual physical meetings, the monitoring and all that kind of hand-holding, it's not there, which I believe is appropriate because this is university. But there are programs, again, for people, first programs, look into your community college programs, because that's what they were originally designed for. Sort of a transition, smaller classes, often more support services for students who it's a first opportunity to be in that type of environment. And then go for it. So college itself is never easy. If it was, then everybody would have college degrees or multiple college degrees. The transition for a traditional student or a non-traditional student, to me, is very similar. It's the same thing. How are you going to manage that freedom? And you can do this. For those of you who already have the skills, yeah, it's not difficult at all. You will probably have times where you're overwhelmed. I've had that even in my most recent degree. There were times when I'd start a semester or term or plan to start a semester and term and think, oh yeah, it's going to work. And then I'd realize not with all my other responsibilities. And I'd have to, withdraw or wait to enroll until another time because there's only so many hours in the day. So all that's to say, again, the fact that you took time to join me, it means so much to me today with the program. I encourage you and hope that you come by CourtneyAnderson.com and sign up for anything that we're doing, share your feedback or ideas. And I'm closing with, it's a myth. Taking college courses online is easy as a lie for everybody except for that small group of people that already excel at college and self-discipline and situations analogous to this, where it's totally you're in control. And that's the reality. I thank you again for being part of the program.